This is Dr. B, and this video is a quick overview of the differences between qualitative and quantitative research. This week's readings will go over this in more depth, but I wanted to point out a couple of key differences and how they apply to your research project. If you're in the sciences, then you're probably more familiar with quantitative research. This is the hallmark of scientific research. This is the type of research we mean when we call something an experiment. It involves the manipulation of variables to determine how they affect one another. Quantitative research aims to understand processes and relationships in a way that is generalizable. This type of research is hypothesis-driven and reflects the scientific value of replicability. However, quantitative research isn't good for understanding contextual factors that affect situations, choices, or relationships. Human beings are messy, and not a lot about us is quantifiable. For example, I like to give the example of calories. The way that calories in foods are measured is literally to burn the food to determine how much energy a particular food releases. However, human beings' bodies do not act like incinerators. How our bodies process food depend on a complex system. Understanding the system is the context, and there are many different variables to consider. One of the drawbacks of quantitative research is that it's not geared toward understanding discrete variables or relationships in a larger context. Context is the heart of qualitative research. Qualitative research is inherently descriptive and delves deeply into specific situations, cases, relationships, etc., in order to understand the way different factors impact relationships. It more closely mirrors the messiness of human lives, but it's not replicable. We accrue knowledge via addition and complication, slowly adding to our understanding by exploring different angles. So qualitative research might attempt to understand the different cultural factors that impact an individual's choices to eat certain foods, or why a person eats foods at a certain time of day, and how that might impact their health. Or qualitative research might examine the context in which our understanding of calories in food evolved and how social values influence our emphasis on calories as a measure of healthiness. One of the drawbacks of qualitative research is that it's often complex and messy and can be difficult to wade through. Coding and evaluating qualitative data can be very challenging. In quantitative research, data is often collected through random sampling. The goal is to generalize the data to a larger population. Data is often evaluated through statistical methods like significance, fit, etc. In qualitative research, the goal is not always to obtain a random sample. Sampling can be purposeful, meaning that we screen potential subjects or artifacts using certain criteria. We may use convenience sampling, meaning we work with what we have access to. The focus here is more on logical fit. That is, can we justify the sample using criteria that ensures the data we collect will answer our questions? Until recently, quantitative research was viewed culturally as the gold standard of research. It's important to note that one of these methods isn't better than the other. Qualitative is not inherently less rigorous than quantitative. They are different methods, and they investigate different types of questions. For your project, unless you're doing a meta-analysis or working with publicly available data sets that's already being collected, or doing a statistical analysis, you're probably going to be doing a qualitative research project. However, some of the data you collect may be quantitative in nature. Just remember that though you may be quantifying information, you're actually doing qualitative research. We might think of the data as quantifiable rather than quantitative. For this project, you may collect certain types of data that are quantifiable, namely anything that can be counted or measured. Common examples are hours of sleep each night, spending in dollars, or the hours spent on social media every day. You can calculate some basic descriptive statistics with this kind of data. For example, you can calculate mean, median, or mode. Qualitative data often refers to contextual information. This could be descriptive information, subjective measures, or metadata about your data. Descriptive information might be sorting dollars spent into categories, or you can use a rubric to rate spending as reasonable or excessive. You can also collect information about the data you're collecting. For example, if you're measuring your hours of sleep each night, then qualitative information might be about when you went to bed, when you woke up in the morning, how many times you woke up in the night, or it can refer to a subjective measure like ranking your mood or quality of sleep at night. There are easy ways to collect qualitative data. You can take notes about quantitative data you're collecting, you can sort your quantitative data into categories, or you can use scales or rubrics to evaluate your data. If you're collecting qualitative data, it's important to use a rubric to rank the data or a schema to code that data. You need a way to sort a lot of information into useful categories that you can work with and that allow you to relate data to one another. For example, if you describe your mood as low one week and okay another, what do these even mean? How can you be sure that a good mood one day is the same as a good mood 2 weeks later? You need meaningful and consistent codes or categories. At the outset of your project, have a clear plan for collecting data. The more data you can collect, the better. However, make it as easy on yourself as possible. Collecting data daily and weekly for 6 weeks can be cumbersome. Here are a few tips for making that process easier. Just remember that the type of data you collect, the way you collect it, and how you evaluate it all stems from your research questions. If you have any questions, please hit me up on the discussion forums, email me, or we can meet to discuss your project.